My wife has these little teeny measuring spoons that she just loves. A smidgen, a pinch, a dash, 1/8 of a teaspoon, 1/4 of a teaspoon. She has them right now in a drawer, but she would like to have them out on the cupboard in a container. And she wants it to look similar to the garlic keeper I made for her. So I found a small blank, and she said that was fine. She didn't want to go to a lot of fuss, and she really didn't care about form so much as function. So she made the measurements she wanted, and I will do this. This is going to be a quick turning, be pretty easy to do, be a spindle turning. So we'll get to it here in just a few minutes. From the top to the pencil line is what the height of the little jar she wants. She picked this blank, and it's just a piece of SPF, but I can round that off really quick. So I will work on that. I always start the lathe at the lowest possible speed, so if it falls off, it doesn't have any energy to it. Then I raise the speed up till the lathe starts to shake and then dials it back a little bit. So I can't tell you how many RPM that is. It's just whatever I'm happy with and the lathe is happy. So I'm using the roughing gauge to start taking the corners off. Right now I'm working on the tenon portion, and I will make that as round and as square as possible, and I will size it up later. But I want to make it to start with. Now I'm rounding off the main body of this cup. Of course, before I started this, I sharpened all of my tools so that they'd be ready to work. That's a good thing to start with, is just sharpen everything first, and then you don't have to stop in the middle and sharpen because you forgot to sharpen at the front end. You do have to stop and sharpen quite often, but it's always nice to start with sharp tools. I am now going to the skew chisel to try and make it smooth on all sides and slowly take down that one spot that's flat. There's always a flat spot on something. So I'm using the skew chisel to do that. I'm trying to round over the top of this with the skew chisel, but because of the grain on this wood, that's not helping. I'll have to switch to a bowl gouge. I wanted to put a decorative piece on here, and I fortunately a few weeks ago bought a texturing tool. This is the Sorby texturing tool, and this is the first time I've used it. So we'll see how it's working. They recommended that you have it turned 15 degrees from 90. And so that's what I've done. Not too bad, not the greatest in the world. I think the big problem is I was going back and forth. I should have just kept it in one spot. I've turned it 15 degrees the other way now. And so now we're just trying to make a crosshatch pattern here. I probably could have pushed it in a little bit more than I have. That would have probably helped. But all in all, not a bad pattern. Now I'm delineating the borders of that textured area. I'm using the point tool from one of my carbide sets, which it didn't work out very well. I had to redo these with my skew chisel, but it got me started. I've decided I wanted to have the band, the textured band, stick out a little bit from the main body, and so I am bringing the top and the bottom down just a little bit for visual interest. Here's where I delineate the border with the skew chisel. Oops, little catch. Careful, Jared. Oops, another catch. Clean that up. I'm making these wider and deeper because I'm going to word burn them with a wire. Now before I do that, I'm taking off the tool rest and moving the banjo. I want nothing in the way when I've got that wire down because it's going to be running at the highest speed this lathe will do. You'll notice I have the wire wound around a couple of little pieces of dowel so I don't have them around my fingers, so if there's any catch or anything, it won't pull my fingers off. Now I'm sanding the outside. I won't show you all of that, just a little bit here, but I go through the grits and get it all done before I turn it around and drill the center out of this blank. Now I'm smoothing off the top. I don't have to smooth all of the top, just what's going to be left after the center is cored out. And rounding it over a bit. I should have done this first before I sanded it, but the top is going to be resanded as I do the inside, so it's not that big of a deal. I should not have done this, rounding over the bottom yet, because I need the ledge for the tenon to rest against the chuck. So that's a mistake. And now I'm sizing the tenon with the Badan tool. I didn't like how it was not going straight, so I switched to a square cutter from the carbide tool. A lot of woodworkers don't like carbide. I take them both as I need them. Now I'm using my spindle gouge to take down this stub as much as I can. And there it goes. We're now reversed in the chuck, and I am marking the drill bit for depth using my homemade depth gauge. That's one of the most useful tools I've ever made. Now, double check, measure twice, cut once, and I still make mistakes. But not as many as if I didn't double check. I'm drilling a small hole in the center to make a relief for the shavings when I drill this finally with the Forstner bit. Not everybody will do that, and it may be a good idea or it may not. I like to do it, but you can use just the straight Forstner bit if you want or not. This is a newly sharpened Forstner bit. I found somebody who sharpens these things, and I'm really glad I did. First I double checked the gauge, and I didn't put tape on this because the depth is at the top of the threads for the chuck. Forstner bit catch, and it started to pull it out of the chuck. So I redo the chuck and we'll start again. Still not running true, so do some more adjusting and tightening. Do any of you have these same problems? If you do, let me know in the comments. I think I had the catch because I was trying to advance the Forstner bit too quickly. So now very easily, very slowly, seems to be working fine. Slow and steady wins the race in this. This is going to be a very thin-walled cup. which is what my wife wanted. I know I could have hollowed this out rather than drilling it with a Forstner bit, but it's a very small piece, quite deep, and with very thin walls. And I just thought the Forstner bit would be the easiest and safest way to do this hollow form. Now that I'm close to the depth I want, I'm sneaking up on the final depth, taking a few turns on the tailstock and then stopping and checking with the depth gauge. And we're there. Yay! To sand the inside of hollow forms like this, I took a piece of dowel and on the bandsaw cut a slit in it where I put the paper, wrap it around the dowel, and then go back and forth that way rather than sticking my hands in the hollow form. That way, if there is any catch, my hands are not inside. It is a safety measure. Now I'm starting the finishing process. I'm putting sanding sealer. This is shellac-based sanding sealer. It is Zinsser's. I don't endorse any one brand over another. It just happens to be what the store had. And I am not putting sanding sealer on the textured band. That was probably a mistake. I am going to stain this with red mahogany stain, and as you will see in just a second or two, it turned blotchy in the band. So I probably should have put sanding sealer in there. Well, live and learn. I've now put the 2 coats of shellac on the outside and the inside, and I am using Scotch-Brite pad to knock down the burrs. The ones on the inside, I'm using my trusty safety stick. Again, do not want to have my hands broken off. Now things get complicated. I don't have chuck jaws that will fit inside this cup, so I couldn't turn it around and take the tenon off on the lathe. I resorted to doing it on my bandsaw. I wanted to put this back on the lathe and turn a foot on this cup. Do not do this at home. This is not the right way to do it. I am trying my darndest to make it run true, and it obviously doesn't. And so I'm going to keep turning it and turning it. Do not do this, Jared. You are going to be sorry. Oh, I heard that. You're sorry. Yes, I cracked it. Now what do I do? Well, there's always a fix somewhere. Off camera, I repaired the crack with thin CA. That seemed to solve that problem, but I could never put a foot on this. I cannot get it on the lathe at all. So the next job was to sand the bottom smooth, going through the grits, and make it as level and straight as I could. Took a little bit of time, but I think it solved the problem. It's now done. I've put my logo on the bottom of it and finished the bottom. There's the sides. There is the inside. So let's see if it works.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I like it.
That's all the ones you wanted to put in it?
Maybe a few more.
Okay.
Ta-da!